so impressed by your research, and I love how much research you put into this.
Chris Van Vliet!
What a forward young man you are.
Always fun with this guy.
What does a 1 hour conversation with The Rock look like?
Wow. I don't check the depth of the water. I don't check the temperature of the water. Just dive all the way in and I'll figure it out when I get in there. I went from watching 0 minutes of wrestling at that point in time to watching everything. I was at that point committed to, when I get a car, I'm going to go train to be a pro wrestler.
Your interview style is, I mean, it's professional.
I fell in love with broadcasting when I was 4 years old. I got a Fisher-Price tape recorder and would pretend to be the radio DJs that I heard on the radio. If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Was there ever a moment where you didn't want to be known as the wrestling guy?
Man, thank you for making this happen.
Oh, no, thank you.
It is rare that I'm on this side of the table. People might recognize this studio, but it's rare that I'm on this side. So, man, I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Well, first off, I just want to say congratulations, because October 23rd, 2023, 353,808 subscribers is what you were at. And you made a goal that by your birthday, May 19th of 2025, you would hit 1 million. And you already crushed that. So congratulations.
I wrote it down on the whiteboard. It still sits in my office today. And I'm just like, I didn't think it was possible, but I was like, you got to set big goals, right? Because even if you come short of it, you're still going to be much further than you were and much better off than you were. So yeah, I set that goal. My birthday still hasn't happened yet. My birthday is still
Coming
a few
up.
weeks away. Yes, I can't believe that number sounds just entirely too big. It's crazy.
So how does it make you feel?
It's a little.
It doesn't matter how it makes you feel. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
I feel like we're going to do that this whole time.
Oh gosh.
How many more times do you think you're going to do that?
It doesn't matter how many.
Doesn't matter how many more times you'll do it.
Okay, so with that said, I have to ask you to rank your 10 interviews with The Rock. Not that I'm counting. I picked 3 specifically.
Okay.
2012 on Monday Night Raw.
Sure.
2015 Furious 7.
Yeah.
And then 2022 Black Adam.
Yeah, those are top 3. So excellent work here. Those are the top 3 for sure. I will tell you that the absolute last one was the red carpet for Baywatch. And I'll tell you that story before I get into the other ones.
Okay.
The red carpet, Miami Beach. I was living in Miami, entertainment reporter for WSVN. Deco Drive was the name of the show on Channel 7, the Fox affiliate in Miami. So I'm on the red carpet. We're doing the interviews for the world premiere of Baywatch. And I just didn't think we were going to get The Rock. Like, he talked to like a few of the bigger outlets and then kind of made his way down the red carpet. So when he got to me, it was very quick and very rushed. He was great and very kind, but it was like, I think if you look at the clip, it's like 41 seconds. And I went to wrap it up because like his publicist was giving me the old like, hey, time to wrap it up. And I went to wrap it up and you can kind of see the look on his face like, oh, all right, man. Well, hey, well, good to see you. Like, and it ended and I just kind of went, huh, I dropped the ball on that. Like, I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. I didn't make the most of the moment. I think in those moments, you want to push it as long as you can. Just keep firing away questions till they're like physically removing the person from you. Like, I'm sorry, no, he needs to go. And in that one, I just made that one too short. So that's ranked last, and it would take a lot to bump that one. Those other 3 are great. So the first one, Monday Night Raw, that was my first ever interview with The Rock. And it was so cool that it was in Cleveland, where I was living at the time. And I also got him backstage at Monday Night Raw. I assumed I was going to get him for a movie junket. He'd been doing so many different movie junkets. I assumed that's where it would be. But I got him in the place that I knew him best. I got him in the wrestling atmosphere, and that was so cool. So that's, I'll put that at number 2.
Okay.
The Fast and Furious one was cool because he hit me with it doesn't matter. And also, like, I always try to sneak in, no matter what the movie is, try to sneak in some sort of a wrestling question for The Rock, because I know that that's what my audience primarily is there to see. Of course, it's great to hear about the movie. Of course, we want to find out about the director and his co-stars and all that, but I try to sneak in a wrestling question. So I asked him something about like a rematch with Brock Lesnar, because I love their SummerSlam match 02. I also was like, man, you hit a rock bottom in this movie. He's like, I did hit a rock bottom in this movie. But him hitting me with the it doesn't matter, I was not expecting it. It's a fun moment. It lived on my demo reel for years and years and years. But the most recent interview, which was for Black Adam, meant a lot to me. because he took the time during that interview to give me the parenting advice. And I was just, it was such an interesting time in my life. We had just found out, my wife and I had just found out that we were going to be parents. We found out that she was pregnant with our daughter, Logan, who's now 2 years old. It's this moment where you are hyper aware that everything's about to change. You don't know what it's going to look like, but you know that everything's about to change. And I think she was only like 8 weeks pregnant. We really hadn't told anybody. We hadn't told my parents yet. But I said to Rachel, I said, we've got this unique opportunity here that I could ask The Rock for parenting advice. And if he gives me any sort of advice, we can just sit on that piece of the interview and hold it. And then when we do tell everybody else, that can be something we post later on. That's exactly what we did. But it's funny. Like, you can see how proud The Rock is to be a dad. And that's kind of where I approach the question from. Like, you're such a great father. Can you give me some advice to be a great father as well? He could have so easily given me some flippant response, some like throwaway answer, like, oh man, like, get your sleep now, which is what you hear a lot when you're about to be a father, by the way. Or he could have been like, oh, those diaper changes, they sure are smelly, and they are. But instead, he made it like a real moment, like he was speaking from his heart. And it was tough for me because it was the first time I was really saying out loud, especially in public, saying the words, I'm going to be a father. I had told other people, like, the verbiage I used was like, oh, Rachel's pregnant or we're having a baby. But I don't think I had said the sentence out loud, I'm going to be a father. And it hit me like hard, like the realization of like what that meant for that little girl that was about to be brought into the world. And now we have a son as well. And I got choked up a little bit. I've never gotten choked up in an interview before. I got choked up as I was saying it, and The Rock immediately got up and he gave me a hug. And like, that just shows like who he is in his core. Like, he saw me in a vulnerable moment. He's like, hey man, it's okay. And he gave me great advice, like about how much this would change my life. Talked about skin to skin in the hospital, and I did that, and that's a huge thing. But that ranks number one until whenever the next one is, right? Because I assume that's not the last one. So let's hope there's another one.
Oh, well, there's obviously going to be another one. It's just a matter of when, right?
Hopefully.
So you're obviously the GOAT when it comes to not just wrestling interviews, but also in a lot of ways, YouTube interviews. I have no doubt that you're going to have a 1 hour plus conversation with The Rock at some point. What does that 1 hour reverse engineering of The Rock look like?
First of all, thank you for the very kind words. I don't know if they're true or not, but I will say thank you. I have a notes section in my phone for anybody that I hope to one day interview or somebody that maybe I know I have an interview scheduled with. So I have a notes section in my phone where I'm just like going through ideas of like anything that pops into my head. I hear them say something in an interview. Oh, that triggers a question in my head. Or I see a throwback clip. What the heck was going on there? We need to find out. Like one day when I interview Triple H, I need to get the answer for that. Remember that moment where he jumps off the middle rope and gets caught with a boot and like wavers for like 2 minutes? I need to know the story behind that. So I don't know. Let's see. Let me open up.
It's an exclusive here?
Sure.
Notes? Okay.
Let me look at my notes section here. I don't even know what I've written because I've just been compiling answers or compiling questions. Oh, wow. This is funny. I have notes from my interview with The Rock from March 10th, 2012.
Wow.
I did not know that was in there.
How many of those questions were you able to hit?
Never looked at this.
Very interesting.
I think all of them, actually. Yeah, wow. This is so funny looking at this. It's like a complete throwback. But I was listening to The Rock on Pat McAfee, and I was listening to some like things he was talking about there. I think that the idea here is like, it's hard to talk to The Rock for just an hour. I mean, it's even harder to talk to The Rock for these 4 or 5 minute junket interviews that I've done. But there's just so many things about his story that I'm curious about. Like The Rock's story is about perseverance and pushing through. If you think about it, his goal and his dream was to play in the NFL. I mean, he got cut from the CFL. So if you think about it from that perspective, and he so proudly tells the story of the $7 in his pocket, that's why he named it $7 Production. He didn't reach that goal. Like he failed at that dream, but he found another way to pivot and make it work, and it worked out even better. And I think a lot about that idea of when things don't work out, what is it leading you towards? In fact, I asked him a similar question when I did an interview with him on the red carpet for Ballers. And like in that show, he's playing a retired NFL player. So he's playing this player who lived the dream that he wanted to have. And I was asking him, like, if you could go back and change anything to like get back to where you were, what would you do anything different? And he's like, I wouldn't change anything, because sometimes the best things in life are the things that don't happen. And I think about that a lot. Like, we wouldn't have this version of him if he was successful in the NFL and, went down that path. So I think it's, I don't know why I can't find this for whatever reason.
That's the longest compilation of notes I've ever seen.
There was a lot of notes in here. But I think it's just a lot about talking about pivots and changes that he made. Because when he left for Hollywood, it's not like he left because his WWE career wasn't working out. He left because he was hungry for more. I'm really curious about that conversation. Because we saw John Cena win number 17. There's no question that if The Rock stayed in WWE that whole time, like if he had a Randy Orton-like run of 20 plus years or an Undertaker run, there's no question Rock would have won way more titles than John Cena, but he chose a different path. And that path has led him to become who he is now.
What are you more excited to show your kids for the first time? Hogan Rock at WrestleMania 18 or Back to the Future?
It's got to be Back to the Future. I feel like it's a safer thing to, not that it's a safer thing to show them Back to the Future than wrestling. Because I think when you can't just show them Rock Hogan, you got to then tell the story along the way. And now I've got to show Hulk Hogan running over the Rock with a semi truck and hitting him in the head with a hammer. Like, I don't think that's a good thing to show the kids.
Okay, that's fair.
Back to the Future is an absolutely perfect movie. It has a little bit of comedy. It has a little bit of drama. It has a ton of heart and an amazing message. We've already watched Back to the Future. I don't think she realized we watched Back to the Future. She was like 9 months old. But we had it on when we were eating breakfast one day, and it just stayed on. And then we went into 2 and then 3. So Back to the Future is the answer. I don't know where I stand on showing my kids wrestling. Of course, my kids will watch wrestling. But I don't know when that happens. I don't know. Do we just plug them into what's happening right now? Do I start with stuff that I loved from the past and pick and choose? It's especially difficult on the West Coast because Raw comes on at 5 o'clock. So if Raw comes on at 5 o'clock, we're typically eating dinner right around then. There was a point in time when she was younger when I would have it on and we'd be watching it and we'd all be eating. I'm like, man, I just don't think that's a good routine to get into for us. So we don't watch TV while we're eating, and I'll end up watching Raw after they go to bed, or I'll rewatch it later on. But I think that's something I'm going to have a real struggle with that, if I'm being honest.
No, that makes sense. When I was a kid, I had to like sneak downstairs to watch wrestling because I knew I'd get in trouble for it. But
I mean, especially back then.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I understand my dad did not like wrestling. And I did exactly what you're talking about. I was watching it in the basement. And I would pretend I was watching Leaf games, and I would flick back like, oh my gosh, 2-1. Can you believe the Leafs are winning, Dad? And I know you're watching wrestling. But I get it. Like during that Attitude Era, I understand why he didn't want his 15 or 16-year-old son to be watching what was going on there. Doesn't matter, Dad. Watched it anyway.
Okay, so safe to say you've seen Back to the Future like, what, 100,000 times or whatever? Right?
A handful of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Men in Black?
Yeah, I've seen that only once.
Okay, so you know how they have the neuralizer that wipes your memory? If you could wipe your memory of either the Back to the Future trilogy or Christopher Nolan's entire filmography, so you could watch one of them for the first time all over again, which would it be?
But we're not losing them forever. I'm just rewatching them for the first time?
Yeah, you get to watch them for the first time all over again.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I think I would love to rewatch Nolan's stuff for the first time again because it's just so mind-blowing. And then the great thing about that is then you get to rewatch Nolan's films for the second time and see all the things you missed in the first time. Then the cool thing is you get to watch it for the third time and see all the things you missed the first 2 times. So I would love to have a clean slate to go in and watch Nolan films. I remember specifically, I went to an early screening of Interstellar. And I'm a huge Nolan fan. And I remember talking with my friends about how excited I was for this new movie called Interstellar. And I went to see it like 2 weeks before it came out or a week before it came out. And I remember leaving the theater and I called my friend immediately. Like, all right, like, tell me, like, how was it? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't really know what I just experienced. I liked it, but I need some time to like put the pieces together and like figure it all out. Like I still watch Interstellar now and try to figure out all the things. I saw a really interesting fan theory and I'm like, man, there's some real legitimacy to this, that perhaps, spoiler alert, perhaps Cooper has died early on. And what we're seeing here is just like some sort of a dream sequence. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because there's one very specific scene where they're in the spacecraft and you see the exact same shot twice, 2 different parts of the movie. And that's not something Nolan would do by accident. Nolan wouldn't be like, oh, we don't have the time to shoot that shot again. Just throw in one from earlier. There must be a reason that he repeated that shot. I don't know if that's the actual specific reason, but I love the fact that we can look at any of Nolan's movies, Memento or Tenet or Interstellar or Inception, any of the Dark Knight films, and we could all have our own theories about it. That's brilliant.
My response to that is like a little mixed, because I love when my friends and I like get to nerd out about like movies and stuff like that. But also I've never seen Interstellar.
You've never seen Interstellar?
I've never seen Interstellar.
Oh my gosh. Well, grab some tissues.
Yeah.
Because there's that one scene when he comes back from the water planet.
Okay.
Gets me every time. It's just impeccable acting from Matthew McConaughey. It's beautiful, but you need to watch it. You're here for a few days.
I got some time.
Yeah. I mean, you need a bunch of time for Interstellar.
To watch it once and then watch it again.
It's just a
and
long
rewatch.
movie too,
Yeah.
but yes.
Okay, since we've been on the subject of memory wiping and time travel, I want to paint a picture for you.
Okay.
I'm DJing a party on Ezra because I know you went to Laurier.
Yeah.
I never went to Laurier, but I had friends who did. So
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of the Laurier Waterloo experience. So I'm DJing a party and I give young CVV the aux cord. Is he going to play this?
Let's go. Don't wait.
Honest. Let's make.
This night lasts forever. Or is he going to play this?
Kids on the block had a bunch of hits.
I love this song so much. I know every word to that song. If I played Summer Girls by LFO, I think people would start leaving the party. So I think I've got to play some sort of Blink 182. That's not even my favorite Blink song. Like that's probably like, I don't know, maybe not even top 15.
Really?
I don't like that song.
That's probably my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. I know you've talked about your pop punk Mount Rushmore. Blink's probably like maybe third for mine. I don't know if they classify as pop punk. I feel like you're more the expert here, so you can weigh in on this.
that.
But mine was more Green Day and Fall Out Boy.
Sure. Yeah.
That's more so what
Fall
I
Out
grew
Boy
up
is
on.
for sure pop punk. I think depends on who you ask about Green Day. I think that some people will be like, of course, it's too poppy to be punk. And then there's some people that's like, it's too punky to be pop. I mean, hard to argue with those ones. I have a real affinity for that song, Summer Girls. It takes me back to a place and a time. That was the summer of 1999. I know every word to that song. I think the lyrics are just ridiculous. And that's what makes it so cool. And when I worked as a server at the Fern Resort in Aurelia, the summer of 2002, I lived in this house. We had parties almost every night. And once a month or so, a few of the guys who played instruments would bring them all in and we would play live music at the party. It's like, which was insane. Like they were just playing covers and I would jam out with one of my buddies there and he's just started like riffing on the guitar and he's like, oh, do you know this song Summer Girls? I'm like, I love that song. And I knew like a few of the words and I was like, kind of like, you know, singing a little bit as we were just like jamming out and like practicing. And he goes, well, if you learn all the words for that, I think we're getting all the like instruments together for like the party this Saturday. Yeah, I'll play it and you can sing it. I'm like, done. And I like listened to the song more and I learned it and then I sang it / rapped it at this party and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he knows all the words. This is crazy. So that just has such a special place in my heart. Rest in peace to 2 of the members, which is crazy. Devin and Rich Nice, who were taken like far too soon. Like It's wild to think about that, but I put that song on every once in a while and impress my wife with my lyrical abilities.
So wait, did this prelude the band?
It did.
It did prelude. Oh, so this was the origin story for Chris the Rockstar, was it? Yeah.
I've been playing guitar since I was 16.
Okay.
Really, like it was pretty basic stuff to begin with. Like G, C, D, you can play almost any song with G and C and D. Turned into some power chords. My guitar playing is like a 5 out of 10 at best. But, you know, you play a couple of power chords or a couple of GCDs, yeah, you're okay. You can trick some people, especially if they've had a few libations at a party.
Were you ever the guy who at the party was like, oh, I can play Wonderwall? Were you ever that guy?
So anyway, here's Wonderwall. Of course.
Okay.
Capo on the 2nd fret. And if you had a guitar right here, I would play Wonderwall. Should have brought
I should have brought
my guitar.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of the band, was Legend Killer about Randy Orton?
Kind of.
Really?
The band formed in 2006. It was like 2005, 2006, right when I had graduated from Wilfrid Laurier. And Orton was doing his Legend Killer thing at that time. And do you remember he would like spit in people's faces?
Yeah.
He would spit in people's faces. He was like destroying all of the legends. If you had done anything iconic in WWE, he was finding a way to give you an RKO or spit in your face or disrespect you in some sort of way. So I guess kind of, I mean, the story is about someone feeling disrespected and spitting in someone's face. I spit in your face because I'm the Legend Killer is the part of the chorus. You haven't heard that song, have you?
No.
Maybe I'll play it for you later.
I'm surprised you didn't name it like Carlito or something like that, because that would have worked too.
Oh yeah, with
Spit in
the apples.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, the band. I mean, what a silly name.
Reminds me of have you seen Gone Girl?
Yeah,
They had a bar called The Bar.
great. I love that.
Something like that.
The reason was it just started out as like my friend Pat is so talented when it comes to music. He can play any instrument. Pat McCormack, he's an absolute legend. He had every instrument in his basement. So sometimes we would go hang out at his parents' house and we'd go down in the basement and bang on the drums a little bit and we would play guitar, play bass. And I think one day I started playing something on the guitar and he started drumming. And my buddy Greg Kuzak grabbed a mic and just started singing a little bit. And I'm like, maybe this is something. Like, I was just kind of like putting some chords together. He was just, playing something on the drums. And Greg was singing something. He was heavily inspired by the Doors, like heavily inspired by that. And we were like, well, what if we like wrote down some lyrics and like made this into something? And we did. And we're like, what are we going to call ourselves? I don't know. We really sound like a the band. And at that point in time, the bands, all of them were so popular. The Hives, the Strokes, the White Stripes, like so many bands with the.
Oh, that's where the name.
Right?
Interesting.
I'm like, well, we're not a the band. We're not a the band. We are the band.
That's amazing.
That was it. It's so silly. But if you listen to our music, it has a little bit of, if you can even call it music, it has some inspiration from my love of pop punk and a lot of Greg's love of the Doors. And then Pat just being able to just be a wizard on, like, he was playing harmonica in some of our songs. It was so good. We never played it like a show or anything. It was just us jamming in the basement, but we recorded something like maybe 15 songs.
A whole album.
Yeah. We actually put out 2 albums. This is so, I'm just remembering this now. Greg would burn them onto CDs and give them to our friends as Christmas presents. And they'd be like, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this thing? No, they wouldn't even listen to it, but it was so much fun. And it's funny, listening to that music recently, it brought me back to a place and a time. And that's a beautiful thing about music, is it has the ability to just transport you to a place.
It really does. And what I love about that too is that, I guess you could say that was one of your first like creative outlets in a way, right?
One of them, I think that came after college. And in college, I was still doing some stuff with radio and I did the morning announcements when I was in high school. So there were a lot of different creative outlets, but that was definitely one where it was like, the cool thing about that is you're working towards a finished product. And that's a beautiful thing about any sort of art, where whether it's paint on a canvas and you can go, look what I've done. Whether it's music and you go, listen to this song, or whether it's a movie, you can go, look at this thing that I've made. It's a beautiful thing. Think about this. If my friend Greg in 2006 was inspired by The Doors, 30-ish years before, that would be like a band now being inspired by 90s music.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, you're making me feel old.
Isn't that wild?
Obviously, wrestling has been a huge part of your life. And for a lot of people, when you think of the WWE, there's no more important name than Vince McMahon. But if you think about the world of CVV, it's a different Vince. Can you tell me more about Vince Reynolds?
Wow. May he rest in peace as well. He's not with us anymore. Vince was my closest fishing buddy. So, and he's also the guy who got me into wrestling. I played on a hockey team with somebody else, and he's like, oh, we're going fishing at Center Island. I'm like, I didn't know we could fish at Center Island. I was like, yeah, there's all kinds of pike there. It's like, okay, we're going to bring my friend Vince. And it was one of those situations where like, I came with this friend, but I hit it off with this other friend. And like, we instantly clicked and became best friends. And it went from like that one random fishing trip together to like, we were talking on the phone all the time about fishing. And in Canada, it's not a lot of months you can do open water fishing. There's a lot of months you can't do open water fishing, I should say. We would talk all the time on the phone. He was a huge wrestling fan. And I knew that on Monday nights, our phone calls would abruptly come to an end because 9 p.m. on TSN, Monday Night Raw would come on and he would be like, I gotta go. And that would be it. And he would always talk about it and he would always make references to wrestling things that I didn't get. And I just didn't understand that world. And then one Monday night, we weren't done talking about what we were talking about. And I said, all right, I'm going to put it on. I'm going to watch it with you so I know what you're talking about here. And then the first commercial break, we'll finish whatever this thing was that we were talking about. And I just got sucked into it. And I instantly became a fan and I started watching everything. I went from watching 0 minutes of wrestling at that point in time to watching everything. Raw and Nitro, and found out about ECW. And I just dove head first. And that's the thing about me is I don't check the depth of the water. I don't check the temperature of the water. I just dive all the way in and I'll figure it out when I get in there. And I became a huge wrestling fan to the point where it was within a year or two, we started our backyard wrestling company. It was not a company. Our backyard wrestling federation, the HCW. And like I was in this and I was at that point committed to when I get a car, I'm going to go train to be a pro wrestler. Like that's how excited I am about this. And it all ties back to Vince being my friend, Vince loving wrestling, and like right place, right time coming together. And I think about that so often in life. If you don't meet this person and not at this point in time, like you don't become the person that you are. And again, tying it all back full circle. So I love Back to the Future. If this person doesn't meet this person, then Marty's not born, you know? If Marty's dad is not a peeping Tom that falls out of the tree and gets hit by the car, you're right. All these things, you know, Marty's dad doesn't meet Lorraine, all these things. I think about that far too often.
You mentioned right place, right time, right? But sometimes in certain scenarios, you have to put yourself in the right place and create the right time. So I want to dive into the Chris Van Vliet playbook right now. And there's 3 instances that once I thread them together, I feel like you'll understand where I'm getting at. Chex TV in Peterborough, 969 MTV2 in Vancouver, and a certain talent agency in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
In terms of creating the right place, right time, how much of that was fueled by your passion and love for broadcasting and wanting to do that as your career? Was there anyone in particular or a certain something that also fueled that drive and ambition?
So the thread you've tied in together here is that I just made myself available. So Chex TV was an internship I had right after I graduated from university. And I was getting nowhere with any of the applications I was putting out for an internship. And I scoured the internet and I found the email address for the general manager at Chex TV, a small station in Peterborough, Ontario, about an hour from my hometown. And I just emailed him and I said, hey, it's reading week next week. Could I come by and talk to you about a possible internship? Here's my resume. Total lie, had no plans to be in Peterborough, hadn't been in Peterborough in years. And he's like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to be in town, come on by. Okay, great. So the whole idea here is like, If I just sent in my resume, I was not going to get a response. But if I made myself available, I wanted to do whatever I could to make it as easy as possible to get to yes. Long story short, that ended up turning into an internship, which then ended up turning into a job. Crazy. That's how I got my career. And I owe Ron Johnston so much for just seeing something in me and giving me that opportunity. I was there for 17 months. And during that time, I auditioned for much more music. That's a whole story in itself, but they plucked me out of the crowd. Like there was hundreds of people there to audition. And I'm like filling out my paperwork. And security guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you come with me." And I'm like, "What did I do?" And he's like, "Don't worry, it's a good thing." And then the producers were like, "We want to see the people that we were interested in first before getting to everybody else. Like, we like your look. Here's my card. We want you to come back for a callback." And that gave me like so much confidence that if Much More Music has what I'm looking for, maybe Much Music has what I'm looking for, or someone else in their family of different shows. So when I saw this opening come up for the show called 969, which was on a sister station called Razor, which had been rebranded from MTV to Canada, I was like, I know I have what they're looking for. I'm going to send in my stuff. In fact, I was working at a news station. I was working at Chex TV. All my stuff was like local news. So I would go into work. I would drive to work when I wasn't working. I would borrow the cameras, with permission, of course, and I would shoot these on-camera stand-ups, making it seem like I was covering more interesting things than I actually was. I was pretending like I was reviewing a movie, or I was pretending I was covering a music festival so that I could bulk up my demo reel so that when I sent it to MTV2, they would go, "Oh yeah, this guy's already doing the thing." So I sent my stuff in, didn't hear anything back. Well, that kind of sucks. So I'm like, well, I just feel in my heart that I like at least could get an audition there. So I knew the person that was doing the hiring because her name was on the application. So I just randomly called the front desk of the TV station. And I said, "Hello, is Catherine Peterson there, please?" And they said, "One moment, please." And I went, oh my gosh. She didn't end up answering. I left her a voicemail. She emailed me back a few days later and said, "Hey, we're still looking through everything, but we'll get back to you." In her email signature was her direct phone line. I said, well, I am going to put that in my back pocket. And in a few days, I'm going to call her. So a few days later, I called her directly at her desk. She answered. And I said, "Hey, it's Chris Van Vliet calling from Toronto. I sent you my stuff." She's like, "Oh, yeah. It actually looks pretty good. We're going through some stuff here." I said, "Well, I'm actually going to be in Vancouver next week. I would love to just come by and just have an informational interview and just talk to you about the position." She's like, "Oh, you're going to be here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be there next Thursday." She's like, "Oh, well, if you're going to be here, yeah, come on in." What? This actually worked? I can't believe it. I hung up the phone. I remember specifically going, "Dad, I need to find a way to fly to Vancouver." My dad worked for an airline and he had the ability to like buy standby tickets. So it was like much more inexpensive. My dad is just the best. He somehow turned this into a work trip so that the flight and hotel was covered. And I went in there and like 5 minutes into the interview, they're talking to me about salary. And I'm like, I think I got it. Like, I think this worked. They had me film a few other things on my own, but I got the job offer all because I was like, I'm going to be there next week. And then again, same thing happened years later when I got my first agent here in Los Angeles. I had been applying to so many jobs and like it would be down to me and one other person, me and two other people, and I wouldn't get it. I'm like, well, if I can't find a job in Canada, could I possibly look for a job elsewhere? So I sent my stuff into a few agencies and they called me back and said, "Yeah, your stuff looks pretty good. And you said in your email here, you come to LA frequently?" I said, "Yep." They said, "When are you here next?" I said, "I don't know, like a few weeks from now." I said, "Great. When you're in town, let us know. We'll set up a meeting." And they ended up signing me. So the moral of this and the thread that ties this whole thing together is make yourself available. Like if you don't ask, the answer is always no. If I said to them, "Hey, I'm available next Thursday," and they go, "Yeah, that's great, but we're not interested." Okay, fine. But I think the biggest thing I kept driving towards with all of this is I wanted to lose the position based on skill and merit. I didn't want to lose it based on like inconvenience. Yeah, we'd love to bring you in, but you live far away. And I didn't want that to be the thing that was like the deciding factor. I wanted to lose it just based on was I good enough for this job or not? And if I wasn't good enough, that's okay. Or if you were looking for somebody else, that's fine. But I wanted to be able to put my best foot forward, show them everything that I had, be absolutely prepared for it. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But at least that'd be on me then.
In the words of the man sitting in that chair right there, control the controllable, right, Chris?
John Cena's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And control the controllable can mean so many different things to so many people. For me, it means you can't control what other people say or what other people do, but what you can control is how you react to those things. When it comes down to those job opportunities, or now I'm doing it a lot with interview opportunities, I'll just make myself available. Hey, where are you based out of? Oh, you're based out of Dallas? Great. That's a quick 2.5 hour flight. Just let me know when you're available. And then it gets you hopefully to yes a lot quicker.
What exactly did you do in your audition video for the CBS station in Cleveland that was apparently so good that they aired it the same day? And then Dan Salomon, your news director, sponsored you with the O2 visa and hooked it up.
So I'm so impressed by your research. And I love how much research you put into this. I went in there's a whole story behind this. And it actually begins with, I got this audition in Cleveland. So I'd been going for quite a few different auditions with this agency that I had kind of backdoored my way into an interview with. I had interviewed with a lot of things in New York, a lot of things in LA. I actually auditioned to be the new host of TRL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in Times Square. I did an audition there, and then they ended up deciding they weren't going to move forward with a new host, and they just ended up canceling the show. But I was there, like when Damien Fahey was leaving the show, he was the guy who took over for Carson Daly. I went in and I had an audition. I saw the guy that like also was vying for the job, and he was very good. I don't know who he was, but I didn't end up getting it. So I had all these auditions, and my agent said, "What do you think about working in Cleveland?" And I had gone to Cleveland that previous summer. My dad and I go to a different baseball stadium every year. We've been to 25 now. We had just gone to see the Indians play when they were still called the Indians at Progressive Field. I'm like, wow, the timing on this is crazy. I was just in Cleveland. Cleveland has so much heart. It's such a great city. Of course, I'd love to audition there. She's like, what's an entertainment reporter position for the CBS affiliate there? It's great. And I went in, I was supposed to have my audition. My apartment in Toronto got broken into. And I thought my passport had been stolen. Like all of our other stuff had been stolen. I thought my passport had been stolen too. And I was supposed to audition that weekend. I had to make a very embarrassing phone call to Dan Salomon, who was not my boss, to say, can't find my passport. My house was just broken into. I think it was stolen. Turns out it was at my parents' house, but like hidden, like not where it should have been. It was in like a backpack that I had used for a previous trip, which was like the biggest relief ever. He's like, no problem. Like, why don't you were supposed to come in for the audition this Monday. Why don't you just come in next Monday instead? Okay, great. We'll make that happen. I truly believe that everything in life happens for a reason, because that particular Monday that I went in, they had their Christmas party the night before. And this is where I knew, like, I think I'm going to get this job, because I flew in that Sunday and Dan goes, why don't I pick you up from the airport? And we're actually having just a little Christmas party, like nothing big, but we're having a little Christmas party at like a bar in town. Why don't I come bring you and you can meet everybody? I'm like, okay. So here I am, someone who's about to have an audition and interview the next day. And I've been brought into this Christmas party and meeting everybody and shaking hands. And I remember two guys who ended up being some of my closest friends in Cleveland being like, all right, so when you move here, you're going to move into this building on West 9th Street. It's called the Bingham. I'm like, guys, I haven't even had the audition yet. Like, I literally just met you. They're like, you're at the Christmas party, dude. Like, I think you got the job. I went and I did the audition the next day. I don't remember anything about it being particularly great. I certainly put my all into it and I tried to do the best job possible. But I remember, like, we did it, and then we had a meeting in his office afterwards, and he goes, I thought that was really good, and I'm actually going to put it on TV this afternoon just to kind of see what people think. Like, and Dan just loves to think outside the box. He did a lot of things when I worked with him where they were just totally outside the box. So he's like, I'm just going to put this on TV, and like, if we get a bunch of bad feedback, I guess, that'll tell us. And I was like, okay, I don't know if we're like allowed to do that. okay. And I went to the airport later that day to get my flight. And one of the TSA people was like, didn't I just see you on Channel 19? And I was like that, what? Like it blew my mind because I had been on TV in Toronto for years and something like that had never happened. And here I was in Cleveland for a few hours getting recognized. But it's just so funny how that whole thing came together.
What do you think it was that Dan saw in you that gave him so much confidence that you pretty much got the job before the audition?
I don't know, and he's never told me, but I think that one of the biggest things was I was completely different from the person who had been doing it before. You know, it was a woman who was doing that position. She was moving on to just focus on doing the 10 o'clock news. And she was beloved in Cleveland. So they were looking for something completely different so there wouldn't be comparisons. Because if they brought in another woman, people would be going, oh, well, man, they're not like she was. So I think he wanted to bring in someone that was completely different. So I think he already had an idea in his mind that he wanted someone who was young and who was a male. So I already ticked those two boxes. So I think that's part of it. And I remember my agent saying they're looking for someone like Joel McHale on The Soup. And I'm like, well, I'm not really a comedian, but like, I'll try. And I remember some of my like early entertainment bits were like maybe a little too punchy or maybe like, I think there's a difference between being funny and being like mean. And I think some of my like celebrity jokes might have been a little mean spirited. And I think I reeled that in a little bit. It took a little while to reel in and like find what my voice was. But I just truly think that like he saw like an energy and an excitement in me that I had for broadcasting then, I still have for broadcasting now. And again, right place, right time.
Who is Dirty Pirate Hooker 123? And what exact moment did he realize that the landscape of broadcasting was changing?
It's my it's my username on that channel still exists. It's my username on a hidden channel on YouTube. Because when I was working in Vancouver for that show 969, they were putting a lot of our clips online. They were putting it on like the Much Music /MTV Canada website. But YouTube was just starting to like fire up and we were getting the opportunities to interview some of these huge bands, a lot of bands, occasional like actors or comedians or celebrities. But like, think about this. I just went to see Mayday Parade last night. If you're a huge Mayday Parade fan, you want to like take in as much information about them as possible. You want to watch all of their interviews. You want to like look at all their photos. You want to watch all their live performances, all of that. So we had this unprecedented access, like compared to like a normal fan would, to ask questions that a fan would want to ask. So me and my co-host Lauren Toyota, like we would do like a lot of like deep research and like figure out like what are the things like fans are like really like talking about. We would do those interviews. But if you think back to that time, it was 2006, 2007, and it's no different from how TV is now. But if you aren't watching TV at that exact time, on that exact day, at that exact channel, you're never going to see this thing. And both Lauren and I had, sorry if I'm outing you, Lauren, here. We both had secret YouTube channels. So we could put our stuff online just so people could see it. She was actually the one that gave me the idea for this. It was just the concept of like, for her, she had just talked to like 30 Seconds to Mars, like just had a great conversation with Jared Leto or like there was any of the other big bands at the time. And it's like, we got something from them that unless you were watching our show on that particular day, you'd never see it. So we just started ripping them from the website and like the super low quality and just putting them up on our YouTube channels and just hoping that another fan in another part of the country or another part of the world would be able to see that and appreciate it. That was all it was, just trying to get that piece of content, that piece of art, if you will, out to more people.
So what was the point when you realized that, oh, this YouTube thing, this might be the future?
I started a different channel in 2011 that was just my name. Same concept here. I wasn't being sneaky this time. Same concept here, just taking interviews that I was really proud of or interviews that were really like timely and putting them online. I had a moment the year after. So in 2012, I was here in LA. I was going to a junket. I remember talking to somebody on our way on the shuttle over to the screening. And he's like, yeah, I've been making a little bit of money on YouTube. And I was like, what? What do you mean money on YouTube? It's like, yeah, like it's called Google AdSense. You just go into your settings and you click a button and like, you know, those ads that you see on YouTube, like you get a portion of them. I'm like, why didn't someone tell me this sooner? And that for me changed everything. And Google AdSense would pay out at that time. I think it's probably the same now. They would pay out when you get $100 in your account. So I was like, my goal is to make $100 a month. I want to get paid out every month. And there were some months you'd make like $17 and there'd be some months you'd make like, $117. But the goal was to always try to get paid out. That's when I realized there was potential there. Like the exact same content that I was getting my flat rate for, my yearly salary for at the TV station, I was able to like, number one, put that out to a wider audience. So if you were a fan of that wrestler or comedian or musician, you were able to see that. Not if you weren't I was in Cleveland at the time. I loved that. Number two, I was able to make like a little bit of bonus money on the side. That was a game changer to me. And that's all I ever thought it would be. $100 here, $100 there. And man, it's turned into something else.
So in a lot of ways, you were one of the YouTube OGs in that sense, because
maybe with interviewing,
Yeah.
but like, I think when you look at the early era of YouTube, they were just monsters in that space. They were like, there were some people at that time, like, was it Ray William Johnson?
Ray William Johnson, yeah.
Or like Justine.
I just seen Niga Higa, Kev Jumba. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like they were monsters of that space and they were like real pioneers. I was just a guy who was doing interviews for a TV station and they were underutilizing social media and YouTube at that time. And I was just uploading them.
So obviously we see where YouTube has taken your career now. How much was the transition from Insight becoming primarily wrestling or wrestling adjacent, results oriented? And was there ever a moment prior to that where you didn't want to be known as the wrestling guy?
I prided myself on being able to talk to anybody. And when you look through my career, I have interviewed all kinds of different people, all different walks of life. It started mostly as an entertainment reporter where you're interviewing actors and musicians and comedians and celebrities. But you're also thrown into, like, the amount of times I interviewed people that were in line for the latest Avengers movie or something like that, or the people who were in line to get into the stadium when the Cleveland Cavaliers were in the playoffs. Like I did so many of those different types of interviews that I felt like I was always looking for like a common ground. Insight became just a wrestling show about 2 years ago. It was WrestleMania 39 where that was kind of like the line in the sand, to borrow a line from Evolution's theme song. But I'd been always doing one interview a week and then one of something else. That was always the way it went. And then every once in a while, a bonus episode thrown in here and there. But I always wanted that like the anchor would be wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, I got you. But if you're also a fan of like becoming a better version of yourself or reverse engineering things or like just learning more, I've got you. I'm going to talk to entrepreneurs. I'm going to talk to actors. I'm going to talk to directors. I'm going to talk to just thought leaders, talk to Colin O'Brady, who climbed Mount Everest, like fascinating conversation. I had a great talk with Chris Voss, who wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. He worked as an FBI negotiator. Like I love these conversations. But I started to look at the numbers, and every time I had a wrestler on, didn't matter who they were, didn't matter what company they worked for, that episode would always pop. If I had anything that wasn't wrestling, didn't matter if it was an A-list actor, the episode just kind of did okay. WrestleMania 39 came around here in LA, and I went, what if I could just bank a bunch of interviews? I live in this city, so like, what if I could just make myself available and get as many as I could? I did something like 14 interviews that week. So with 2 interviews a week, that set me up for the next 7 weeks. I'm like, okay, well, if I've got 7 weeks in the can now, can I plan some more and just keep this thing going? That April ended up being the best month for the podcast in terms of numbers. Crazy. Then May ended up becoming better than April. Then June was better than May. Then July was better than June. Every month kept building upon itself. And I'm like, we're on to something here. I can't ignore this. Like, obviously, there is, the Venn diagram has some overlap of people who are wrestling fans and fans of something else. But it was something that someone told me that really stuck with me. If you make a show for everybody, you make a show for nobody. And the thing about the internet now is niching down into that niche and niching upon the niche. So like, I didn't just do a sports show. I did a wrestling show. And that was like, if you're looking for in-depth conversations with pro wrestlers or people in the pro wrestling space, I've got you. Not like tune into my show and you go, I've never heard of this person, but that might be an interesting concept and I might learn something, which were what a lot of those interviews are. And that's no disrespect to those people or those interviews. It's just, I have found what's worked right now. And the audience seems to really enjoy these interviews with wrestlers. So we're going to keep this thing going as long as we can.
I want to close it off with a couple rapid fire-ish questions.
Okay.
Start, bench, and cut these three. New York pizza, barbecue hot wings, and a bone-in ribeye steak.
Wow. I got to cut one of those things?
Yeah.
Start, bench, and cut. Okay. We're going to start the pizza. I could eat pizza for every meal on every day, especially if it's good New York pizza. And there's not a ton of it here in LA. It's the first thing I do when I get to New York is I look for a good slice. So that starts. Bench the wings, and I love a good ribeye. Love one. But I don't know if I probably do eat steak once a week, at least once a week. That's tough. Depends where the wings are coming from. Okay, if they're not good wings, I can definitely bench the wings or definitely cut the wings. Because sometimes, you know those wings, when they're not good, you get like the rumble gut.
Yeah. You do breaded or non-breaded?
If breaded is an option, I love breaded. But if it's like breaded or grilled, I'm probably going to go grilled. And I like
because it's healthier.
It just, I don't know. There's something about like I love just the taste of the burnt on anything.
Ah, okay.
Whether it's on wings or whether it's on like when we grill up broccoli, I love that. I guess that's, man, I'm getting rid of, I can never eat steak again. All right, let's reverse this. I love wings though. All right, wings are cut.
Okay.
That was hard.
This might make this next one a little bit tougher then.
Oh boy.
Start, bench, cut, Swiss Chalet, Shagwell's, and Cleveland Chop House.
My goodness. 3 of my favorite places. I think for those, are we just talking about the food or are we talking about like the atmosphere and everything?
I'll leave it open to interpretation.
I think it's got to be the atmosphere because Shagwell's doesn't exist anymore, so I don't mind saying this. Shagwell's food was not great. But Shagwell's had all-you-can-eat chicken wings on a Sunday night in Pickering, Ontario. So we went there a lot. And some of my friends like Basil or Greg could put down like 5 or 6 pounds of wings, which is a ludicrous amount of chicken wings. It's a lot of chickens too. You think about the chickens? Crazy.
It's a lot of chickens.
Swiss Chalet just means something, that's like that's comfort food. And that's the food. I don't know if it was the same for you growing up in the GTA, but like, when you were like coming out of like, I don't know, church or when you were coming out of like, when you needed to go meet the grandparents somewhere, like Swiss Chalet was just the easy answer. I know that has shifted a lot because when I go home, Swiss Chalet has like 6 tables in it now. Like it used to have to line up to get to Swiss Chalet. Now you walk in and there's like 4 other people there. But the chalet sauce is so good. Could drink it. And Cleveland Chop House was just like it was walkable. It was a block and a half from where I lived in downtown Cleveland on St. Clair. And it was just like, it was open for lunch too. And my friends and I went there frequently. It's funny that doesn't exist either. I think it's been renamed to something else.
Cleveland Chop.
It's Cleveland Chop. Yeah. I think they had a different like change of ownership. That was also a long time ago when I went there. We are going to start Swiss Chalet just because I love it so much and it means so much deep inside my heart. Cleveland Chop, and then I guess we get rid of Shagwell's. Even though the memories were so great, we've moved on with our life.
Okay, so I had a feeling you were going to answer that way, so I prepared an extra one to throw in there to kind of throw a wrench in here to see how this would affect your order.
All right.
Okay, so we have those 3, and then the dark horse one here, Tanner's.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's where Rachel and I met. Wow. It's, the rooftop is called something else. We met on the rooftop. Yeah. That place, that has to take the #1 spot. Although we've only been there once since.
You never went back?
It's in Huntington Beach, which is maybe 25, 30 minutes from where we live. We went back once and we sat on that rooftop and went, oh, look at this. Memories. Yeah. I guess just for pure nostalgia, we got to go with Tanner's. Excellent cut there. I even forgot because it's Tanner's is the name of a place within a place.
Okay.
I was thinking of the other place.
It reminds me of like never been to Sneaky D's.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that, I guess, because it's like you have the club, but then it's like the restaurant like downstairs.
Yeah, like
upstairs.
the restaurant downstairs has a name.
Yeah.
And then the rooftop
Yeah.
has a name too.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what made me think of.
We have a map that hangs in our bedroom, and there's a little heart right where Tanner's is, and it says where it all began.
Aw.
June 20th, 2021. Yeah.
So you like to close your interviews asking your guests 3 things that they're grateful for. I want to put a spin on that, and I want to ask you 3 lessons that you've learned from certain people that you're grateful for. I'm going to name them off one by one, and then we can go from there.
Okay, I love this.
Rachel Van Vliet.
I've learned so much from her. She's made me a better person. And I think that I can't picture my life without Rachel. And my entire life has changed as a result of meeting her on that one fateful day. Like, if you look at our story and just the way things were set up, we never should have met. She's from New Jersey. I'm from Pickering, Ontario. We're both living in Southern California, but not close. She was living in Costa Mesa. I was living in Studio City. She had her settings on, we met on Hinge, a dating app. She had her settings to like 30 miles. We were like 40 plus miles away from each other, which in LA is a long distance relationship. The quickest I ever got to her place at like 3 or 4 in the morning, like, cause I was trying to beat traffic, was like 45 minutes. The longest was like 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. It's not fun or close, but just she has this incredible ability to make everybody in her life feel special, myself included. And that is something that I have learned just by osmosis, by being around her all the time. She is the funniest person I've ever met. She's the most generous person I've ever met. And she's the most selfless person I've ever met. And I feel so incredibly grateful that I get to love her every single day.
Damn, you're gonna make me tear up, bro.
I can't picture life without her. And I just can't believe that we got to meet each other and now we get to spend the rest of our lives together.
Okay, so the second one, I'm actually grouping 2 people. So Dirk and Helen Van Vliet.
And how lucky am I that I get to sit here and both of my parents are still with us? I mean, quite literally, I am who I am because of them. I'm not here without them, obviously. But there's different lessons I learned from both of them. My dad's is like, I think a lot of that perseverance is from my dad. My dad's never been late for anything. And I get that from him. My dad's the whole idea of like, if you're 5 minutes early, that's when you're on time. And I very much appreciate that about him. I also think I get a lot of my passion from my dad. My dad worked for Lufthansa, the German airline, for his entire career. He is passionate about airplanes, like passionate. And I think I get my passion from him for different things. Like he'll see an airplane fly over and be like, oh yeah, it's an A320. Oh, look, that's American Airlines A320 right there. Wow. I'll get on a plane. I'm getting on one tomorrow to go to St. Louis for Backlash. I'll get a text from him and be like, oh yeah, I saw there's 2 seats open in business class. Are you on the business class waiting list? Do you think you'll get upgraded? Oh no, Dad, I didn't get upgraded. I'm in 17C. Oh, you're in the exit row window seat. Yep. Like I saw that your flight took off 7 minutes late today, but you're going to get into Arizona for your connection 4 minutes early. That's great. I just love that passion. And that's the passion I was talking about. Where I dive into something and I don't check the depth of the water or the temperature of the water. My mom is just so selfless in everything that she did for both me and my sister growing up and all of the opportunities that they gave us. Both of them never missed a baseball game, never missed any of my sister's soccer games. They were there for every hockey game I played and just so supportive. And like, yeah, maybe they didn't like wrestling when I really got into it. And I know that they were scared when I became a backyard wrestler that I was going to get injured. And it wasn't me. It was my friend Will White who broke his leg. But I know that it came from a place of like, they just wanted the best for me. And now that I'm a parent, I judge a whole lot less than what I did when I was younger. You know, when you're a kid, your parents are kind of like the fun police, especially when you're a teenager. They're the fun police because all they're doing is telling you, no, you can't do that thing you really want to do. But my friends are doing it. I don't care what your friends are doing. You can't do it. And like you really start to butt up with just like the idea of like, you want to do this thing. They don't want you to. And it's like, well, like, I'm never going to get my way. Now that I have kids and they're not old enough to be asking for things, but I now realize that like, oh, they were just doing this because they were looking out for us. And yeah, I'm so grateful for both of my parents. And yeah, I wouldn't be who I am right now without them.
And the final person, Kimberly Van Vliet.
It's so hard. You know, it's so hard. We lost my sister in October. And it's funny when her husband, my brother-in-law, Brent, did the eulogy. He said, you were literally the nicest person that I ever met. And it's so true. My sister was so nice to everybody. To everybody. It didn't matter who you were. So nice to everybody. And she saw the best in people. And that's the quality that I take most from her, is she saw the best in everybody. And I see that in her kids. I see that in Ainsley and Colin and Clark. They see the best in everybody. And I didn't talk to my sister. Like I wasn't like texting with her all the time because she was quite a few years older than me and had her own life and lived in Calgary. But every time I saw her and saw the family, we picked it right back up, right where we left off. And I love that. And I miss her. I miss her a lot. And I know it's been really hard on my parents as well. They say that grief is like, it's like walking around with a rock in your pocket. And at first you're like, I got a rock in my pocket. Like you're always noticing it because it's always there. And then as time goes on, you get a little bit stronger and you're okay with it being there. And you start to notice it a little bit less, but it's always there. And yeah, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. And it just came as such a surprise. She was battling this for years and we thought we were in the clear, and then it came back, and then we thought everything was okay. And she was gone. But I'm grateful for the time that we had with her.
I have one last request for you. A lot of people, they like to ask their guests, oh, where can we find you? I'm not like most people. I want to channel one of my favorite people, Jeff Probst, and I'm going to ask you to dig deep here. I want you to channel that inner sharp talking, sharp walking, sharp dressing, Chris Sharp, 2-time HCW champion.
Wow.
And I want you to cut a promo on why the 3 most electrifying words in wrestling aren't WWE.
No.
They're not AEW. They're not RKO.
Hell no.
They're CVV.
Well, I would tell you where to find my YouTube channel, but with over 1 billion views in the last year, I don't think I need to tell you. You already know where it is. Hell, you're probably already subscribed, or maybe you're one of those people who just watches the videos and doesn't subscribe. You're a taker. Take. That's all you're doing. Taking. Maybe it's time to give back just a little bit. What does pushing a button on your phone do for you? Nothing. You know what it does for me? As a creator, it allows me to continue doing what I love to do. It actually does really bother me when you think about this. Right? These videos pop up in your feed and you don't have the decency to just click a button? That's it. All you got to do is click a button to subscribe or follow a show. That's it. So again, I would tell you where my show is. You already know where it is. 1 billion views, 1 million subscribers. You know all about it. So go do the thing. What are you still looking at me for? Do the thing. I don't like Chris Sharp. I don't think I like Chris Sharp. I'll also, as we wrap this up, I feel like I should have done this earlier. I should have said, Hip Hop Marmalade, spick and span, met you one summer and it all began. You're the best girl that I ever did see, the great Larry Bird, Jersey 33. When you take a sip, you buzz like a hornet. Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of sonnets. Call me when you listen because I can't speak, baby. Something in your eyes went and drove me crazy. I won't continue. I know the whole thing, though.
We're keeping that in.
Hip-hop marmalade, spick and span. Met you one summer and it all began. You're the best girl that I ever did see. The great Larry Bird, Jersey 33. When you take a sip, you buzz like a hornet. Billy Shakespeare wrote a whole bunch of sonnets. Call me when you listen because I can't speak, baby. Something in your eyes went and drove me crazy.